it's Tasha. Thank you guys so much for joining my crochet along for the Fair Isle Fair Isle Beanie. Um, so I went ahead and I made the gauge swatch last night. And the best way to get your gauge swatch or your gauge proper is to go ahead and I worked it in the round because the stitches worked in the round, so that's how I wanted to work it. And I thought it would be easiest that way. I'm using the knit stitch and the foundation single crochet row down at the bottom, which is what the hat actually starts off with. But for the gauge, we're not going to count that in our gauge. We only count the knit stitches. So you don't have to worry about trying to count that one in there too. So I I will walk through this little gauge swatch with you so you can get an idea on how to do it like this. So a foundation single crochet is created by creating a slip knot, and it's not very difficult. I've put links for this stitch in the pattern, and it's actually not really, I guess it's considered a stitch, but so what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2 at the beginning, and then you work into the first chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then you're going to chain 1, only going through the first loop like that. So you'll have 2 loops on your hook, and go ahead and grab those 2 little chains down there and then yarn over and pull through both, and then you've created your first foundation single crochet. Then you work through the bottom 2 loops to do your second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through to chain 1, grab those 2 bottom loops because you're going to be working in those next, yarn over and pull through, and you just keep working like that until you have 32 foundation single crochets for the foundation row of the swatch. Sorry guys, I just woke up and I'm a little sleepy still. So I've got my coffee. Even though it's decaf, I still have my coffee. It has a little bit of caffeine in it, I think. Okay, so I think you get the idea. And trust me, how loose this looks, everything tightens up when you start to do your knit stitch. So go ahead and do 32 of these, and then we'll join them, and I'll pause the video. Okay, I'm back, and for the sake of the video, I didn't actually chain or do 32 for my thing, but I just wanted to show you guys how to join. So for this join with the foundation row, you're going to take it out with the tail end on your left side, and then make sure that it's not twisted in any way, and bring those ends together like this with the right side facing out, the side you would normally work the right side, and then go ahead into that first stitch there and join in the top 2 loops. That leaves a little gap down here, which is what happens when you do a foundation row, but all you do is when you get to the end of your project, you just take your tail and weave it through the bottom end and just weave them together. Or you can do it now, it's up to you. Okay, so let's get started on the next part of the swatch, and we're going to work the actual knit stitch, which creates the knit pattern. And I think you can see it up close, if I can focus in on that, like that. Each one of these is a stitch, is a square on the pattern that you see. All right, so let's do it. So the first part of the pattern calls for yarning or chaining 1, and then 1 row of regular single crochet. The first row started in the same as your join and your chain 1. So you're going to go into that very first stitch and just do a row of single crochets all around. So let's do that and pause, and then we can come back. So we've reached the beginning of the round again, and what we're going to do is we're going to join, and we're going to do it in the chain space, the chain, and not the actual stitch itself. So this is a little more difficult, but that's why I recommend using a hook like a boy style hook instead of a Bates hook, or you can use any hook that has a pointy end like this. I started out my hat using my Susan Bates hook, and I completely regret it. I ended up getting really bad calluses on my finger from having to shove through the stitches because they were just really super tight and the tip wasn't very sharp. So I switched off to my boy hook, and I'm normally a Bates hooker. So that was interesting to learn, because I thought I never really used these boys, but they worked great for this project in particular. So you can also, it has a nice hook right there, so you can grab onto that chain and kind of pull through the other side to hook it in there, which I'm actually having difficulty doing right now. So I'm not sure why. I'm wondering if I actually did chain. Maybe I'll go in there for now to join. Okay, so chain one at the end, and then we're going to actually start working the knit stitch round, so I can just show you guys how to do that knit stitch. And this is a little awkward too, but the little hook right here will really help you guys get in there. So as you can see, these are the single crochets. Try to get a little bit closer. Okay, so here's our single crochets, and these are the V's. And the knit stitch or waistcoat stitch goes straight in between those V's. So that's why it's real important to work this every row very loose as possible. So go ahead and hook the right side of the V with your hook, then kind of insert, come out the other side, straight through the center, and then complete a single crochet just like you would normally complete a single crochet. But see, I think I made my single crochet row too tight, so if you come across that problem, just go back and loosen it up a bit. And then pull these out just a tad, because you want your stitches to be loose. It might seem weird at first to kind of be so loose, especially if you like, but somehow with this stitch the tension ends up working out just fine. So pull them through just a little bit. There, find the V, even if it's tight. Go into the right and in the center, and then pull it through and complete your single crochet just like normal. It might take a little getting used to at first, because it doesn't always want to pull back through very easily. I guess that just depends on the tension of your first row or round. There's the V. And I have to push it back all the way, especially using the boy, because boy hooks are thinner at the beginning and the front. They taper. Bates hooks don't taper, so they're thick all the way through. But that's why this one works better for this project, because you kind of need that little bit of taper to get through that stitch. But make sure you push it all the way back so your tension stays the same. Alright, so that is how you do your knit stitch. And you can see it's already creating the V's in the center. And I'm going to pause the video and come back, and then we'll show you how to start the beginning of the next round. Okay, so we've reached the end of our first row of knit stitch, and we're going to do our join. And the join is always made into the chain one prior to your first stitch of the first stitch of the round, of the previous round. so what it does is it creates this great seam that's kind of looks like what I said, looks like a stretch mark, but it doesn't. So here's your first row of your knit stitch, and here's the last row. So this is going to be the first square that you work in your pattern. So this will be square 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when you reach the end, this will be square 30. So the seam is pretty, it's not very noticeable on the hat at all. I love it. It's a really great technique for a seam to join there. And it's actually the first time I've been using it, so I'll probably be using it a lot in my hat patterns from now on. So here's the chain 1. This is your first actual single crochet knit stitch. And so you're going to go and join into the chain 1. Pull over and then slip stitch straight through, and then chain 1. And then you're going to begin your next knit stitch directly in the center of the first knit stitch that you did before. And you continue working like that around. And remember, this is just for the swatch, so I mean this stitch is used the same throughout the entire pattern, but this is just, we're just working the swatch right now to make sure you get the proper gauge so it's not too big. So continue working your swatch, and all you need to do for your swatch is work 32 foundation single crochets, join them like we did earlier, and then continue working your knit stitch until you have around, let's see what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. And the 8 rows should measure around 2 inches. Mine here is just a little bit tighter than that, but when you get 16 or more, it should work out just fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be super perfect, but if you can get around 2 inches from the bottom to your 16 or your 8 rows. Geez, guys, I am so sorry. I can not talk today. Then that should be perfect for your gauge on the hat. And this measures just around 4 inches there. A little over, but that's okay. And you should have about 15 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So it should be about 15 stitches, 8 rows high, and that should give you what you need to make the hat. Alright guys, post your pictures. I would love to see them. And also for the contest of the best swatch, we're going to give away, I'm giving away a packet of multicolored Mira yarn, which is, they're little tiny skeins, and you can make a fun project with them or do any kind of stuffed animals or anything like that. So it should be fun. Alright, I'm going to upload these, and I'll see you guys in the forum.